Good day all. Welcome to Obed Farm. Well, these chicks are finished week 2. They're now heading into week 3. So someone asked me how do you know that you should now be changing your feed from from starter to grower? Well, there is a scientific way, there's a chart for it whereby you can actually do according to your weight and lifting them, whereby you sample at least 10 chickens. If you've got a batch of 100, you sample 10. If you've got a batch of 200, you sample 20, just to get an average feel if your birds are at the weight that they are at. To me, that scientific chart, I've never really used it because it does not really reflect quite a bit. But a person who wants to really do it, yes, there is a chart. You can actually look for it on Profeeds. They will give you a chart of how to do it. If you look for it on National Foods, they also have a chart about it, whereby you're looking at what the kgs of birds are. But why we say that we change from starter to grower, then grower to finisher, is because there is more like a small. We say our chicks should be ready in 6 weeks. So each 2-week cycle means the change of feed. Now, when we get to a certain stage whereby you can actually see that your birds are not growing, because from the first 2 weeks, they should be at least at this stage where they are at least a few grams. About this should not be. They're not more than 300 to 400 grams. These birds. But how we just do that is simple. Let's do it according to the bags of feed. Why we want to do it according to the bags of feed is because that is the easiest way to gauge where you are at. So if I start with my grower, I'm starting off with my starter feed. My starter feed for 100 birds is supposed to be 50 kgs. And that 50 kgs is supposed to last me 2 weeks. So in roughly the first week, they should consume less than about 20 kg. In the second week, they should consume about 30 kg because they are now growing. Why we then do 2 weeks is if your feed does not finish within the 2 weeks, it means that either you have not been making sure that your chickens have got always good feed available, or they are not consuming enough feed. So that either means that there's not enough feed or there's not enough water for them to be crossovering between the two. So what you then do is that you then make sure that you increase the time. So if your daylight time is also another factor. If you mean that your chickens do not have light during the evening, which we have here's a light, it means that also they are not going to be growing them to grow, because we want them to be growing fast. So when you find that the feed is not being consumed or converted fast enough, increase the daylight so that they actually consume feed during the evening, and this will also increase the amount of feed that they are consuming. So what you then do is that you put in additional light for them to now feed during the evening, and they will start eating during the evening. When 2 weeks arrives and your feed is not yet finished, do you stop that feed? No, continue giving them that feed. But now you need to be saying to yourself, this feed needs to end very fast. So increase the lighting for them to now consume that feed. Once they have consumed that feed, then you go into the next process, whereby you then go into your grower. So your grower is now 100 kgs. So that 100 kgs now needs to be consumed in 2 weeks again. So within the next 2 weeks, you are giving them that 100 kgs. If the 100 kgs finishes before your 2 weeks are up, then it means that do not continue giving them grower. Start giving them finisher, because they are consuming enough food to be at the stage that you need them to be in. So it is never in reverse, whereby if the feed does not finish, stop giving them, or if the feed you quickly change. No, finish that program. So if it's supposed to be 2 weeks for starter, and your 2 weeks quickly, within less than 2 weeks, your starter is finished, go to your grower. Because the grower and the starter, the mixes are not very different as in the formulation of the grower, starter, and grower. And between the grower, between the starter feed and the grower, it's not much. The difference is one is crumb, the other one is now a bit of a pellet. So that is really mainly the difference. And then the energy level and protein level slightly change a little bit, but not that dramatically different that they will not be able to eat. It is the reason why we give them crumb at the beginning, is so that they're easily able to eat the food. If we give them as pellets, these pellets are too big for them to consume, and it will normally get stuck in their gillets. And when it gets stuck there, that's when you find them having complications and them not eating a lot, because it also takes time for them to drink that water to dissolve that food. So the more you give, that is the reason why we start with crumb, then we go on to the pellet kind of feed. The pellet is for now for them to consume a lot, and that food stays in them, and then it dissolves slowly, and then that's how they will also grow. So if we are saying 2 weeks on starter, 2 weeks on grower, 2 weeks on finisher. By the time you get to finisher, this is the time when you are now able to scale and see where your feed conversion is. At 5 weeks, you will then be able to see that have they reached at least 1.2 to 1.5 kgs as in live weight. If they have not reached that kind of weight at that age, then it means that you are going to need to either supplement, again, put more light, put more water for them to consume a lot more during that time, because now we are wanting them to grow as fast as possible within a short space of time. If the feed finishes before that time and they have not reached your correct weight, it means that you will need to buy more finisher feed so that they grow to that weight. There are either other small tricks and tips which I can teach, but these ones I tend not to want, because these are the tricks that you do by yourself, and then you see that does it work if you feel that your chickens are not growing. There's a time when my chickens got stunted, and whatever, normally those will be the rejects, and once you start getting them rejects, they will get to 5 weeks and they'll still look as small as this. And then you now need to find a way of, well, how do you then make them grow a bit bigger? There's other means of way of doing, and the most easiest way is to actually increase the protein, but at the make sure that it's still a little bit more balanced, but the protein increases. But this is things that I would not share on this channel, because if it goes and then your chickens die, then you say, oh, it's me. May I just believe that for you, just do the straight feed. Take the feed which is the correct mix, use the correct feed, use the correct water, use the correct way, and you will find that your chickens grow. But this is what I just said, that is the easiest way. Thank you very much for liking. Thank you for subscribing. I hope I've answered the question for those who wanted to know. There is a chart. Yes, there is a chart, but I do not believe that I would use it because when things become too technical, you find that it becomes difficult for you now become more of a person who's spending time in looking at charts and maps instead of looking at the animals, their growth pattern. By just looking at them, you will actually see that this is growing faster, this is growing slower, this is doing this ABC. So that is very, very important when you're doing chickens. Use the correct method that you want that easily adapts to your needs. And the easiest way is making sure that you physically monitor the growth patterns, and then you look when you're at 5 weeks. That's when you start sampling. That sampling is for you to say to yourself, at what kgs do I want to kill my birds? At the end of 5 weeks, just before the end of the 5th week, like tomorrow is the start of the 6th week, you take your few 10 birds, you sample them, and then you see if they're around 2 kg. It means that by just looking at them, you'll be able to say that this chicken which are ready at 2 kgs are ready for slaughter. These ones, let me give them another week to grow to their 5th week. Well, I think I've helped as much as I can. Thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Until next time, have a good day.